So what we're doing is we're setting off on a ride from Newcastle to Blacktown. It's 40 cyclists, and the cyclists are different members of the community, from police to businessmen to ordinary men in the street and women, all riding to make a stand. It's pretty tough riding, and a lot of riders say when they're riding those hills, if the victims can do what they do and get out, then we can ride up a hill to support them.
We're here as White Ribbon, and I've just ridden from Newcastle with an amazing bunch of men and women, police, community members, families and friends who have come together to speak out against domestic and family violence under the banner of White Ribbon.
I was sitting on my bike training. Janelle asked me if I'd participate in the ride because I was a cyclist. And I thought, oh, I don't know that I'm all that keen on that idea. And then I asked her about what it was all about. And then when she told me what the cause was, I thought, well, there's just no way I can refuse to do this.
To eliminate the cycle of domestic violence, obviously, men need to stand up.
Because once we stand up and talk about it, and these people that's been there and done that, they can say, no more violence.
There is still a long way to go before we understand our attitudes, and I do feel that one of the things we really have to understand is we still focus on the victim and somehow look at blaming the victim for not leaving, rather than looking at the perpetrator and saying, why doesn't he stop being violent?
No one chooses to be the victim. The offender, the perpetrator, chooses to be the offender. They choose to commit the act of violence. The victim doesn't have a choice in it.
Our number one challenge is that we need men to be more involved in this issue. Because when we get the perpetrators of 95% of all violence involved in the issue, then we have an opportunity to a solution.
It is about gender. And the reality is that most victims are female. People will say that, 25% of victims of domestic violence are men, and that's true. But over 60% of those cases, the offender is still a man.
We now have 2 women a week being murdered.
So far this year, 77 women have lost their lives.
We have 1 in 3 women.
Above the age of 16 will experience physical or sexual abuse in their lifetime.
And we have 1 in 4 children are affected.
If you're a man, highly likely you are going to be assaulted on a footpath either before or after leaving a licensed premises. These are the facts, ladies and gentlemen. If you're a woman, you are going to be assaulted at home, and it is going to be at the hands of someone who says, I love you.
Because it's about power and control.
Fairness means everyone is judged by the same measures, and that everyone gets the same opportunities for success and happiness.
So the importance of coming here today is dispelling some myths. And the reality is we need to do more to protect our women. And that's really what White Ribbon's about. It's about talking about it, it's about having the discussion. It's about being honest about the situation we're in.
Is we've got to start changing our attitudes towards the victim and family violence.
So the message needs to come out stronger and harder, and men need to own that message more so, which is one of the key things that we're trying to get out as part of White Ribbon, is really giving men ownership for the issues of violence against women and trying to push that message within the male environment, the male community, a lot stronger than it ever has been.
Well, the first thing I do to try and break the cycle of domestic violence is just look at my own life and work out whether there are areas that I need to improve. You know, are there areas where I don't demonstrate respect for the women in my life? Are there areas where I'm not actively teaching my kids what it means to give respect and to expect respect?
I think we've almost decriminalised domestic violence as a private matter. And I think today we need to have that honest conversation amongst ourselves, that those who commit domestic violence are criminals.
In February 2014, my son was murdered by his father, and I realised that from that journey, when I spoke to the media straight after that event, that a lot of people still don't understand the prevalence of family violence.
We need people to talk up about this. We can't simply excuse what happens to try and write it off as it's only happened once, it won't happen again. As we've seen from various cases, once it happens once, it's more likely to happen again. So we do need to take a firm stand and to be able to say as a broader community that we're all as one on this.
It doesn't matter where domestic violence occurs. If there's one incident, it needs to be stamped out.
We shouldn't even be thinking about what are the reasons that people end up in this situation where they lose self-control so much, because there is no excuse, never ever any type of excuse. And I'm passionate in making sure that A, we raise awareness, B, that we give hope for people that there are actions that they can do before their life goes into complete turmoil, and that we all have a responsibility to help out our fellow people.
And by raising awareness here in Blacktown, we're just saying as a community we are taking the lead to make sure that wherever there is, never ever is there an excuse, and if you have some type of issue that you're trying to deal with, you're not alone.
So it's really looking at our own individual circle of influence, how we can change, how that we can call the police if we hear something that it doesn't sound right and sounds concerning, or we can challenge behaviour of people we know that we feel their behaviour is unacceptable.
The community, Blacktown community in particular, but all the communities along the way have come together to show their support in raising awareness. And I can see a chain reaction happening that if more and more communities make a stand, more and more communities of the ordinary people out there and our leaders in a community say violence is not okay.
I am speaking out to the community through events such as these, which are fantastic to help raise awareness.
The big thing that we need to do generally from a whole range of people is to speak up.
Challenging a bit of behaviour every now and again amongst those that your friends and family doesn't take much effort at all, so I really encourage everyone to have a go at that.
I became aware of the extent of domestic violence about 3 years ago, so my company became involved in doing sponsorships, charity runs like the White Ribbon City to Surf run, the White Ribbon Breakfast and race days to raise money for the cause.
I'm breaking the cycle of domestic violence by participating in this ride. I've put up a lot of advertising in my practice supporting White Ribbon and its causes. I'm entering into conversation with the people that I interact with on a daily basis as often as I can.
Look, I think education is paramount. I really do. I think guys need to hold their hand up and say, okay, it's unacceptable for one.
So we're using our position as club managers to challenge the behaviours of men who are old-fashioned and traditional and aren't moving with the times. So that's our window to talk to people about why it's important we don't make below-the-line jokes or commentary, why we treat women seriously, why we respect and value the opinions of women.
We believe it's important. It's obviously an issue in Western Sydney. We're a business in Western Sydney. We see it as being a part of our social commitment to the area, but also because we're a business that employs 80% males, we think it's an area that we need to focus on. We're looking after our employees and trying to have them think about the role of domestic violence in our community.
This is a man's problem. A lot of this violence is centric to men and the attitudes and behaviours we have. So what I'm doing to change that is actually talking to young people, to young men, and involving our business and myself with schools and programs such as White Ribbons Break the Silence, for example, at school level.
And by getting out there and speaking to the kids, going to the schools, educating on the problems in regards to domestic violence, there's an opportunity to break that cycle and then hopefully in the future generations domestic violence we hope will be eliminated.
We are running many programs which are related to domestic violence, for example White Ribbon Day. We as responsible members of our society must stand together to stand against violence, and it starts with you, with me and all of us, because we are the next generation.
I took action to break the cycle by spreading awareness because I believe by awareness comes responsibility and responsibility action.
I think it's a great idea to raise awareness and teach the newcomers of Street Unity to let them know what is right and what is wrong, and we have to tell them that violence is not the answer.
I believe that education is a big factor in breaking violence against women. I'm breaking the cycle by educating not only my mates around school or anything, but also my
peers and family members about this ongoing situation so that they are aware of the issue that we face in our society today.
When I was a kid,
I know a lot of violence. It's the only way to resolve anger. It's almost like a solution, but it's never been a solution.
If parents learn how to treat their children on equal level, girl or boy, one generation will reduce it. One generation will be okay from that.
To eliminate the cycle, we've got to start at home. I've got a 10-year-old daughter and an 8-year-old son, and just the way you actually speak to them and refer to women and boys and men and females differently affects the way they grow up. So it has to start at a very early age.
You know, I have, for example, 2 little boys and a little girl. Now, I know that if my wife and I bring those boys up the right way, they will be a people of good character, of goodwill, who are judged by the world on the quality of their hearts and the merits of their actions. Violence against women and girls comes down to a very, very simple question of fairness, of justice.
We have so far to go, but we, I believe now, have really turned a corner.
I know it's been perpetrated on me, and I have perpetrated against other people, and it is not a way forward. It doesn't stop.
And it is about men. This issue is about men. It is a men's issue, then we need to be addressing it. We can't ignore it. We all got a role to play in that space, and we all need to step up and actually do something positive in that space. It's not hard to do it. It really isn't hard to do it.